What's up you guys and welcome back. I'm FPL Nymphria and this is my FPL Game Week 31 review and double woohoo Game Week 32 preview video. How exciting is this? I've been waiting for the confirmation before making my video and it's time for the doubles. But before I cover those, let's take a look at how I got on in Game Week 31. Fabianski has somehow gone from bad to worse. How does a keeper with such good fixtures go from being super consistent hashtag 3.fab to 6, 2 and 1 in the last 3 game weeks? I mean, just 2 saves from Fabianski. I am looking forward to selling in whatever strategy I go with for game week 32 and beyond, but knowing my luck, that's exactly when he'll perform again. Everton up next could be his week, especially if I'm selling. Moving on to my defence, and what an absolute waste of space Azpilicueta has been. 2 and 1 in the last 2 game weeks. I'm not sure anyone expected Chelsea to be so poor against Everton. 2-0 was a bit of a shock. Azpilicueta did have an 81.3% accurate pass rate, 2 interceptions and 1 clearance, but it was nowhere near enough. I'll be reconsidering him for game week 32. I don't mind punting on Chelsea given their fixtures, but I am not sure I want as much money as I now do in Azpilicueta. Next up is Robertson. Another letdown in game week 31. Only 2 points from him. It wasn't from lack of trying with him. He looked lively and the stats support that with 8 crosses, 2 key passes and a shot on target. Unfortunately, none of them paid off and the goal from Fulham sealed his 2-point fate. Lastly though, a ray of light, an unexpected gift from the FPL gods, and I did not see it coming. Yes, the highlight of my game week 31 was an assist from Yedlin, of all people. When I picked him up in game week 27 for game week 28, he didn't play a minute in 2 game weeks straight. I was convinced his number was up. And though surprised to see him start against Everton, when that went badly, I was sure he wouldn't start against Bournemouth, as he seems to get played based on his form. I have to admit that when he started, that was only half the surprise, because as soon as he conceded, I just gave up hope. So, to hear that Richie had scored in the 94th minute, I was more gutted it wasn't Rondon, to be honest, until I was informed by an excited Nim fan on Twitter that it was in fact a Yedlin assist. Shut the front door. I ran around the house. It was only 4 points, but heck, those 4 points meant a lot after the last few weeks. Thanks, Yedders. Let's take a look at my midfield, and onto Brooks. With Bournemouth in form, I was hoping Brooksy could nick a little something against Newcastle. 2 goals for Bournemouth, but no involvement for Brooks, and just the 2 points from him. Salah, the villain of the FPL Game Week 31 community. 3 shots on target, 2 shots off target. As my captain, I lived every minute of it. There's a few moments in that match against Fulham where other players could have easily slipped the ball into Mo and he'd have got any number of points. And I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for him and the hatred now being attached to him for this. However, in FPL, points are what counts. And for his 13 million plus price tag, he hasn't been performing often enough. Game week 26 was the last goal from him, and people are just fed up and selling by the boatload. Have we seen the best of Mo this season? I hope not. He just needs his mojo back. So, talking of FPL villains, you can see I have Hazard in my team. Now, I'm a little annoyed at myself here. I wasn't going to sell Pogba given the cash I had tied up in him, and I got completely sucked in by the blank game week and panicked and decided to sell Saturday morning for a non-blank game week player. I did a poll on Twitter because I really fancied Talisman to smash it in 31, and that's exactly who the Nim fan voted for. However, my panic over the sheer numbers who owned Hazard made me go in that direction instead. And despite Hazard looking lively in the opening minutes, 1 shot on target, 2 shots blocked and hitting the woodwork, he still blanked and Talisman got an assist. How typical is that? Another time where I avoided my gut. And now I have a tough decision with Hazard. Great fixtures and a double, but are Chelsea all they're cracked up to be? I am really hoping this isn't another moment where fixtures over form plays out. Lastly, in my midfield, we have the Mane. Oh, Mane. Picked up in game week 27 for Richarlison for me, and he's been a dream to own. 5 goals and 1 assist in that time. Now, I hold my hands up. Despite this, I didn't captain him in 31 when I probably should have. I just really hoped that it was Mo's week for a comeback, but it wasn't to be. However, owning Mane has definitely saved me this game week. Then we have my forwards. There's not much to shout about here. I did sell Aguero for Wilson. I don't know why I do it to myself. I lost both my heart and my wallet in that transfer, and now I can't wait to get Aguero back in. Wilson did have a shot on and off target, but I'm not sure this transfer was worth it. And this season, Wilson has probably been my most sold in and sold out player of my team. I just keep wanting him back despite his disappointing ways. And Higuain, well, what to say about this guy? First up, I'm glad he started, despite looking unlikely with a fever. However, that's all I'm glad about. He really looks quite poor, and again, just the 2 points from him. Another player who promised so much with great fixtures, and such a disappointment. Rondon, on the other hand, has overperformed for me. I was very grateful for the goal against Bournemouth and his 8 points. Cheers, Rondon. It seems the Newcastle boys did a biz for me in game week 31. So after all that, I finished on a total of 41 points, so 37 minus 4, and a very small 4k green arrow. I will most definitely take that on a week like this, and I am now 174,529 in OR. Punchin did unexpectedly play, another big surprise, but remained rooted on my bench with 1 point. All the others on my bench did not play. It was a bad game week. For those keeping track of my team budget, I am down again due to selling Aguero and Pogba to 105.4 in squad value. That is now going to both hurt during my free hit and my wildcard, so that is a bit of a shame. But enough about all of that. Now let's get on to double game week 32, the one we've all been waiting for. And the no plan, chip plan strategy has allowed me to be very flexible with this, to the point where I can now decide if I want to wildcard or free hit in game week 32. The pluses and minuses I see for each is this. If I wildcard now, I can get 3 City in the rest of the season. I absolutely hate my game week 31 team. That will also be my game week 33 team if I free hit. So wildcarding does appeal, as I could free hit a better one in for game week 33. Also, wildcarding allows me to afford the team I want to regardless of price rises or drops that may happen during this crazy period. However, by wildcarding this week, I will unlikely be fielding 11 double game week players, as I would have to either play or bench my Liverpool assets, as trying to get them back in next game week with one transfer would be very hard work. Now, Liverpool are at home, and I could see them scoring goals against Spurs, but do I want to miss out on the opportunity to have extra double game week players? Probably not. I also have to consider that by wildcarding now, if a big injury happens or a player drops in or out of form, I am stuck trying to edit this particular team for the rest of the season. So right now, I am leaning towards the free hit chip. I don't want this team back in 33, I really don't. But I think this chip allows me to continue having a level of flexibility. Just imagine the very unlikely scenario that Salah hauls against Spurs and becomes back in form. If I wildcard, he's gone, he's out of there, and would be very hard to get back in. However, free hitting has him returning to my team for 33. It basically just allows me to have some players still in my team for 33 and 34 that wouldn't really be there if I wildcarded. If I want 10 or 11 double game week players in 32, such as, well, Bournemouth. They don't have a double, but they do have great fixtures. So in my wildcard, I might like a Bournemouth player like Wilson, Brooks, Fraser, King, but if I get them in my wildcard for a good run of fixtures until the end of the season, they won't have a double in game week 32, which, you know, isn't everything, but the whole idea of being able to have an extra double game week player in 32 does appeal. So if I free hit, this is how it would initially line up. And this is very likely to change lots of times, but this is my initial thoughts. At the moment I'm thinking I'll likely go cheap at the back with the goalkeeper. This will be between Ryan and Foster, purely just so that I can go more attacking with my funds. Then I'd have one expensive defender. This is likely to be Luiz, Lindelof or Laporte. I would like to think with both City, United and Chelsea's fixtures that hopefully they can keep a clean sheet in at least one of those. Next to them I have Wan-Bissaka and Duffy. Obviously if I choose Ryan in goal I will unlikely double up with Duffy, but for now this is fine. And Palace having Huddersfield in one of their matches makes them very appealing. Now my preference at the moment in Palace defence is Schlupp. Unfortunately, I have a lot of money in Wan-Bissaka, so for that reason, I likely stick with Wan-Bissaka because it'll cost me more money to buy Schlupp. But if I had the choice, Schlupp is the one I'd go for because he definitely seems to be having more attacking threat at the moment. In midfield, it looks fairly templatey. My biggest decisions here are whether to keep single game week player Mane over Pogba, who is both cheaper, has better fixtures, and has a double. Keeping Mane also might see me compromise on who I have up front, which is less than ideal. And secondly, whether or not to keep Hazard. I would be putting a lot of money and faith in a player that just isn't really in form, all because he has good double game week fixtures. If I decide to go without, I won't have any Chelsea attacking cover, as I just can't keep hold of Higuain with better forward options out there, and I never know which one of Pedro or Willian they're playing and which would be better options. So at the moment, Hazard stays, but by the end of the international break, who knows? I have to have Sterling. I just want him in my team regardless of which chip I'm using. So that's it. Sterling's in, bish bash bosh. Then I think my fourth playing mid spot is between Deulofeu and Jota. I wanted Jimenez and Deulofeu, but that's more expensive than Dini and Jota, so I'll need to have a think about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Then my other forwards are Aguero. He's a must for me, as you guys know, and I fancy a punt on Kane. He's expensive and Anfield is a big ask for him, but I could see him really wanting to put on a show at the new stadium against Palace, so I'm hoping he's a nice differential, albeit a very expensive one. And then my bench would be as cheap as chips, as the hope is that if all my starting 11 have two fixtures, hopefully they are unlikely to miss both. In order for them to be cheap as chips, I'll likely bother worrying about whether or not they play a double. So Southampton assets, I'm looking at you guys. There is this bit of me that thinks all this build up for the chips and the double could end up being such a letdown. I am hoping that rotation is a minimum. I could see the City boys getting rotated around, maybe even the Wolves boys getting rotated around, but I can't help feel like this just isn't going to be as simple as we're all hoping, so no matter which chip I use, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for all of us. And that's it, you guys. I'll let you guys know what I decided via my usual social media channels, Twitter and Instagram. I may even do another video update next week. Either way, you can catch how I got on in my next video, and please support me by liking and subscribing, or even joining the Fancy Football Hub with my code in the description below. And as always, feel free to check out my sponsors, fancyfootballfix.com. Until next time, Nymphria out.